The sky over New York was dark, not from clouds, but from the giant shadow that blocked the sun. People screamed as a glowing object entered the atmosphere, leaving a trail of fire. The news drones buzzed above the city, shouting warnings in every language. Unknown object detected. Impact expected in 30 seconds. Times Square was chaos. Cars crashed into each other. Tourists dropped their bags and ran. Street vendors abandoned their carts. Sirens wailed like the city itself was screaming. But one man stood still. Captain Jack Reynolds stood on the roof of a half-destroyed building, his boots planted on broken concrete. His face was calm, almost bored. He didn't run. He didn't panic. He just watched the sky like a man waiting for a bus. The object hit Times Square with the force of a bomb. The ground shook. Windows shattered for blocks. Smoke rose in a mushroom cloud, and when it cleared, people saw it a giant alien pod. Black, alive, and humming. The pod opened like a blooming flower, and something stepped out. It was massive, at least 20 feet tall. Its skin looked like a mix of steel and muscle. Its glowing blue veins pulsed like rivers of light. Its claws scraped the asphalt, cutting lines through the street. Its head turned slowly, scanning the humans below. People screamed. Some froze. Some prayed. Then, a voice filled every speaker, every phone, every screen in the city. It wasn't a human voice, it was too cold, too perfect. Humans. Today, you are tested. Survive until sunrise, and you live. Fail, and your species is erased. Then the voice went silent. The creature roared, a sound so loud it rattled teeth. Cars flipped over just from the shock wave. People ran in every direction. Chaos took over. And Captain Jack Reynolds smiled. Good, he said softly, almost to himself. It's training day. He grabbed his radio. Command, this is Reynolds. Tell NORAD to stand down. No nukes. No missiles. This one's mine. There was static, then a panicked voice on the other end. Jack, are you insane? That thing is leveling the city. I said stand down, Jack snapped. I've seen this thing before. And that was true. Not this exact monster, but something like it. Years ago, Jack had been part of Project Anvil, a secret US program created after the first alien signals were detected. They had trained soldiers using holograms, simulations, and even genetic clones of alien creatures. Jack had fought them 100 times in VR and he had won every time. But this wasn't a simulation. This was real. And if he was wrong, millions would die. Jack jumped down from the building, landing hard on the street. He ran toward the monster while everyone else was running away. The beast spotted him. Its glowing eyes focused. It let out a low growl, like a predator finding prey. Then it charged. Jack didn't slow down. At the last second, he dove to the side as the creature's claws slammed into the pavement, cracking it open like glass. Jack rolled, came up on one knee, and fired 3 rounds from his rifle. The bullets sparked off the creature's armor but got its attention. Come on, Jack muttered. Follow me. He turned and sprinted down a side street. The monster roared and gave chase, crushing cars and tearing down lampposts as it ran after him. Jack's heart pounded, but he grinned. He knew this game. He knew its speed, its turning radius, its blind spots. He wasn't running away. He was leading it. Jack's earpiece crackled. Reynolds, you're out of your mind. You can't fight that thing alone. Who said I was alone? Jack answered. A black Humvee came screeching around the corner. Inside were 4 soldiers, his old team. Mike, Sarah, Cole, and Ramirez. They had been waiting for this day for years. Need a ride, Captain? Mike shouted from the turret. Jack jumped onto the Humvee as it roared past. "Let's give this thing a proper welcome." The Humvee swerved, the monster right behind it. Cole leaned out the window with a grenade launcher and fired. The grenade hit the creature's chest and exploded in a flash of light. It stumbled but didn't fall. "Harder!" Jack shouted. "Go for the legs." Sarah fired a second grenade, hitting one of its knees. The monster dropped to one side, roaring in pain. But then something strange happened. Glowing veins wrapped around the wound, sealing it shut. The monster stood back up, stronger than before. Jack's grin faded. "It's adapting," he said quietly. "This just got serious." The Humvee skidded into an alley, losing the creature for a moment. Jack jumped off and grabbed his radio. "Command, listen carefully," he said. "We have one night to survive this. And trust me, this thing is just the first wave." Far above them, in orbit, alien ships waited. Watching. And smiling. The Humvee's engine roared as it tore through the empty streets of New York. Jack leaned against the turret ring, catching his breath. Behind them, the monster's heavy steps echoed like thunder, growing closer every second. "Where are we going?" Sarah shouted from the passenger seat. Jack grinned. "To the armory. If this is training day, we're going to need better toys." Cole slammed the brakes and the Humvee skidded to a stop outside a sealed underground door, disguised as an old maintenance tunnel. Jack jumped out and pressed his hand to a hidden scanner. A green light flashed, and the door groaned open. Inside was Project Anvil's New York cache, a secret weapons vault buried beneath the city. The lights flickered on, revealing racks of high-tech rifles, crates of explosives, and experimental gear that looked like it belonged in a sci-fi movie. Mike whistled. "Man, I miss this place." Jack grabbed a heavy pulse rifle and tossed one to Mike. "No time for nostalgia. Load up, this thing isn't going down with regular bullets." The team worked fast. Sarah prepped shock grenades. Cole activated a portable shield generator. Ramirez set up a drone to track the monster's movements. Jack stood in the middle of the room, checking a holographic display of the creature. "This isn't just an attack," he said. "It's a test. Look, its energy output is rising. It's evolving." "Evolving?" Sarah asked. Jack nodded grimly. "When we trained in Project Anvil, the simulations taught us one thing: these creatures learn. Every minute we fight it, it gets smarter. Stronger." Mike loaded a magazine into his rifle and smirked. "Then let's kill it before it finishes the lesson." Before Jack could answer, the entire vault shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. The monster had found them. "Positions!" Jack shouted. The team took cover behind crates as the massive steel door buckled. With one swipe, the monster ripped it open like foil. It stepped inside, its glowing eyes scanning the room. It wasn't roaring this time. It was quiet. Almost cautious. "That's new," Jack muttered. The beast lunged forward faster than before. Cole activated the shield generator, creating a shimmering energy wall that blocked its claws for a second, just long enough for Sarah to throw a shock grenade. The grenade detonated with a blinding flash, sending electricity crawling over the monster's body. It roared in pain, slamming into the walls, knocking weapons and crates flying. "Now!" Jack shouted. Mike and Jack opened fire with their pulse rifles, glowing rounds ripping into the creature's armor. For the first time, they saw it bleed thick, glowing liquid splattering across the floor. But instead of slowing down, the monster did something none of them expected. It spoke. At first, it was just a growl. Then words formed, broken but clear enough. "Human, strong, interesting." The entire team froze. "Oh, hell," Ramirez whispered. "It's learning our language." The creature charged again, even faster than before. Jack dove aside, barely missing its claws. It grabbed one of the crates and hurled it across the room, smashing the drone into pieces. "We're outmatched," Sarah yelled. "Fall back," Jack ordered. "To the tunnels." The team retreated through the narrow maintenance corridors as the monster smashed through walls behind them. Jack planted explosives as they ran, setting a remote detonator. They burst out into an abandoned subway station. The tunnels were dark, silent. Only their heavy breathing echoed in the air. Jack hit the detonator. The explosion ripped through the vault entrance, collapsing the tunnel behind them. Dust and smoke filled the air. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, from behind the rubble, came a deep, rumbling laugh. It wasn't human. It wasn't natural. But it was laughing. "Captain," Mike said slowly, "I think you just made it angry." Jack wiped sweat from his face, heart hammering. "Good," he said. "Now we know it can feel something." They began moving deeper into the subway tunnels, staying low and quiet. The city above was burning. Distant booms and screams echoed through the concrete. Sarah finally spoke. "Jack, this is insane. If this thing keeps learning, we can't stop it. We should call in airstrikes, nukes, anything." Jack shook his head. "No. This is what Project Anvil was for. They trained us for this exact moment. If we call in nukes, we risk waking up whatever is watching us from orbit." "Watching us?" Ramirez asked. Jack pointed upward. "You think that broadcast was a one-time thing? They're out there, waiting to see how we perform. If we fail, they send more. If we succeed..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Suddenly, their radios crackled to life. It was the same alien voice as before. "Impressive. You have survived this long. Let us make it interesting." Above ground, the sky lit up as two more pods fell from orbit, slamming into the city with earth-shaking force. Mike's face went pale. "They just dropped more of those things, didn't they?" Jack looked at his team, then at the dark tunnel ahead. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Welcome to training day." The subway tunnels were dark and wet, the smell of dust and smoke filling the air. Jack's team moved carefully, flashlights cutting through the black. Somewhere behind them, the rubble shifted. The monster was digging its way through. "Keep moving," Jack ordered. "We need to reach the junction before they break through." "They?" Sarah asked. Jack glanced back over his shoulder. "There are 3 now. And if we stay in one place, they'll find us." Mike grunted, dragging his injured leg as he followed. Blood was soaking through his pants, leaving a trail on the ground. He'd been slashed in the vault when the creature broke in. "You need to sit down," Sarah told him. "No time," Mike said, shaking his head. "You leave me behind, you're all dead. I can still shoot." Jack slowed his pace just long enough to look Mike in the eye. "We're not leaving anyone behind. Not today." The team reached a massive underground junction, a place where several subway lines crossed. Jack checked his map. "Perfect. This is where we make our stand." Cole frowned. "Against 3 of them? You serious?" Jack knelt and began placing explosives around the tunnels. "This isn't about killing them. Not yet. We trap them, slow them down, learn how they move together. Project Anvil trained us for one-on-one fights. Now we test group tactics." The team worked fast, wiring charges, setting motion sensors, and positioning themselves behind cover. Ramirez deployed the last of the drones, sending them flying down the dark tunnels. Then the sound came, a deep, bone-rattling roar, followed by claws scraping against steel. "They're here," Sarah whispered. The first creature burst through the tunnel wall, dust and rock flying everywhere. It had healed completely, its glowing veins brighter than before. The second one appeared a moment later, slightly smaller but faster. The third moved like a shadow, crawling on the ceiling like a spider. "On my mark," Jack said, gripping the detonator. The creatures charged. Jack waited until they were in the kill zone. Now. The tunnel lit up with fire as the explosives went off. The shockwave knocked the monsters off their feet, collapsing part of the tunnel behind them. Dust and flame filled the air. "Hit 'em!" Jack shouted. Pulse rifle fire echoed through the underground, bright streaks lighting the darkness. Sarah's grenades exploded one after another, the air thick with smoke. One of the creatures roared as its arm was blown off, but then glowing veins reached out, pulling the limb back together. "They're regenerating faster," Ramirez yelled. "They're learning." Before Jack could respond, the spider-like one dropped from the ceiling, landing right on top of Mike. The impact threw him to the ground. Mike screamed as the creature's claw slashed across his chest. "Mike!" Jack roared. He sprinted forward, emptying his rifle into the creature's face. The monster shrieked and leapt back into the shadows. Jack dropped beside Mike, pulling him behind cover. Blood poured from Mike's wounds. His breathing was ragged. "Cap, you gotta finish this without me," he said weakly. "Shut up," Jack said, tearing open a medkit. "You're not dying today." Sarah knelt beside them, panic in her eyes. "He's bleeding out, Jack. We need to get him topside." Jack looked toward the tunnels. The monsters were regrouping, their glowing eyes shining through the dust. "We can't leave," Jack said. "If we run now, they'll follow us straight into the city. Millions will die." Mike grabbed Jack's arm. "Then finish it," he whispered. "Don't let them win." For a moment, Jack froze. This was supposed to be training day, a test. But this was no simulation. If he stayed, Mike could die. If he left, the whole city might fall. Then Jack made his choice. "Cole, Ramirez, get Mike out of here," he ordered. "Take him to the surface, find a medevac." Cole hesitated. "But Cap, that's an order," Jack barked. Cole nodded and grabbed Mike under the arms. Ramirez helped, dragging him toward the emergency ladder. Mike tried to protest, but Jack just put a hand on his shoulder. "You come back to me, soldier," Jack said softly. "We're not done yet." Then he turned back to the tunnels, raising his rifle. "Sarah, with me. We hold this line." The monsters attacked again, faster than before, moving in perfect coordination. Sarah and Jack fired everything they had, forcing them back inch by inch. Explosions rocked the tunnels, filling them with fire and smoke. But then, the largest creature stepped forward, and this time, it didn't roar. It spoke. Clearly. Perfect English. "You are strong," it said. "Good. Then we will stop holding back." Jack's blood ran cold. "Sarah," he said quietly, "run." The creature's glowing veins flared like lightning, and its body began to change, growing larger, sprouting wings. The tunnel ceiling started to crack as the beast prepared to burst through to the surface. Jack stared up at it, jaw tight. "Damn it," he muttered. This just became a war. The ground above them cracked as the winged creature burst through the subway ceiling, dragging concrete and steel into the air like paper. Jack and Sarah barely made it to a side tunnel before the entire junction collapsed behind them. "Go, go, go," Jack shouted as dust and fire chased them down the narrow corridor. They emerged into a maintenance exit and climbed the ladder to the surface. When Jack pushed open the hatch, the city was unrecognizable. Streets burned. Buildings were collapsing. The night sky glowed red from the fires. And there were 3 monsters now, all loose, all hunting. Sarah coughed, her face streaked with grime. "We can't stop them. Not like this." Jack stood in the middle of the street, staring at the destruction. For a moment, even he felt the weight of it. The city he had sworn to protect was being torn apart. Then a group of firefighters ran past them, dragging civilians toward safety. One of the firefighters stopped and stared at Jack. "You the guy fighting those things?" the man asked. Jack nodded. The firefighter tossed him a radio. "We're with you, soldier. Tell us where you need us." Jack looked at Sarah. She blinked. "You're not seriously?" "Oh, I'm serious," Jack said, a grin spreading across his dirty face. "If they want a real fight, let's give them one." Mobilizing the city. Within the hour, Jack had turned the ruins of New York into a battlefield. Civilians helped barricade streets. Firefighters filled trucks with fuel and explosives. Police officers armed themselves and blocked intersections. Even random New Yorkers, cab drivers, construction workers, teenagers showed up with whatever they could find: Molotov cocktails, baseball bats, crowbars. Jack climbed on top of an abandoned car and shouted, "Listen up. We don't have air support. We don't have tanks. But we've got something better, every single one of you. They think we're weak. Tonight, we prove them wrong." The crowd cheered, their fear turning into defiance. Sarah shook her head, smiling despite herself. "You're turning this into a war movie, Jack." Jack checked his rifle. "No, Sarah. I'm turning this into a lesson." The Battle of Midtown. The monsters came at midnight. The winged one dived from above, crashing into a street barricade. The smaller one scuttled along building walls, moving like a spider. The third one charged straight down the main avenue, smashing through cars. Jack gave the signal. Explosives hidden under manholes detonated, fire and debris shooting into the air. The creatures stumbled, giving the police time to open fire. Pulse rifle rounds, shotgun blasts, and grenade explosions lit up the night. But the creatures adapted too fast. The winged one avoided the next explosive, learning from the first. The spider creature used its claws to fling cars as shields. The big one just got angrier, its glowing veins turning blood red. "Fall back to the secondary trap," Jack yelled. They led the monsters into a narrow street where fire trucks had been parked in a V-shape. As the creatures entered, firefighters opened the hoses, not water, but gasoline. Jack flicked a lighter and tossed it. Oomph! The entire alley turned into a wall of fire. The monsters roared as flames wrapped around them. For a moment, the street looked like hell itself. One of the creatures collapsed, its body charred and smoking. The crowd erupted in cheers, but it was short-lived. The winged one landed on a rooftop and screamed, shaking the entire block. Its charred skin peeled away, revealing new armor growing underneath, shinier and stronger than before. "It's evolving again," Sarah shouted. Jack grabbed the radio. "Pull everyone back. Now." Jack's gamble. As civilians retreated, Jack climbed a fire escape, getting to the same rooftop as the creature. He stood just a few feet from it, pulse rifle in hand. The monster tilted its head, almost curious. "You are impressive," it said in perfect English. Its voice was deep, almost calm now. "But this ends." Jack smirked. "Not tonight." He fired the last of his pulse rifle rounds straight into the creature's glowing chest, then threw himself off the rooftop as another set of charges detonated below. The explosion sent fire shooting into the sky, collapsing the entire building. For a moment, everything was quiet. The street was filled with dust and smoke. People stared, waiting to see what would crawl out. Then came the sound: heavy wings flapping. The monster rose from the rubble, glowing brighter than ever. It was furious now. And it was flying toward Washington, D.C. The turn. Jack landed hard on the pavement, coughing as Sarah and a firefighter pulled him up. It's leaving. Sarah said. It's going after the capital. Jack wiped the blood from his mouth and looked up at the night sky, where the creature was already a distant glow. Then we follow, he said. This isn't just about New York anymore. He grabbed the radio. Command, this is Reynolds. Get me a chopper. We're taking the fight to D.C. The helicopter blades roared as Jack and Sarah flew over the burning city. Below them, New York was a war zone, but civilians were still fighting back, holding the streets. Jack gripped the doorframe, staring at the dark horizon where Washington, D.C. waited. The creature was a faint glow in the distance, flying like a comet. You know this is suicide, right? Sarah shouted over the engine noise. Jack smiled. Only if we miss. Arrival in D.C. By the time they reached D.C., evacuation was already underway. Sirens wailed. People ran through the streets, heading for shelters. The Lincoln Memorial stood in the distance, bathed in the eerie red glow of fire. And then, with a sound like thunder, the monster landed on the National Mall. It spread its wings wide, towering over the reflecting pool. Its voice boomed across the city. Humanity. You have fought well. But this ends now. Jack jumped out of the helicopter before it landed, hitting the ground running. He sprinted across the lawn, rifle ready. Jack. Sarah shouted from behind him. You can't take it alone. He glanced back with a grin. Who said I was alone? From every direction, soldiers poured in, Army, Marines, National Guard. Tanks rolled down Pennsylvania Avenue. Drones buzzed overhead. This wasn't just Jack's fight anymore. This was all of humanity. The battle for the capital. The first tank fired, the round exploding against the creature's chest. It roared, swatting the tank aside like a toy. Drones swooped in, unloading missiles. The night sky lit up with explosions. Jack charged forward, planting charges along the reflecting pool's edge. The creature swung its claws at him, tearing up the ground, but he dove and rolled, staying just out of reach. Bring it closer. Jack yelled into his radio. The soldiers opened fire, driving the monster toward the center of the mall. Its wings beat the air, knocking men off their feet, but they kept firing. The creature screamed, glowing veins pulsing like fire. Jack pressed the detonator. Boom. The entire reflecting pool erupted, a wall of water crashing over the creature. Electricity from the charges ripped through the water, shocking it from head to toe. The monster shrieked, collapsing to its knees. Now! Jack shouted. Missiles, grenades, and gunfire poured into the creature as Jack sprinted straight toward it. He leapt onto its back, climbing up the glowing veins like a ladder. The creature thrashed, slamming him against a stone pillar, but Jack held on. He drew his combat knife, the same one he'd used in training 100 times. This is Earth, he growled through gritted teeth. And we fight back. He drove the blade straight into the glowing core at the base of the creature's skull. The monster let out one final, deafening roar. Its entire body flashed white, then went still. Slowly, it toppled forward, shaking the ground as it fell. Silence. Then the soldiers cheered. The message. As the dust settled, every screen in the city lit up again. The alien voice returned, calm and measured. Impressive. Humanity has survived the trial. You have passed. Then, for the first time, the alien voice sounded almost amused. Prepare yourselves. The real war begins soon. The transmission ended. Jack stood over the creature's corpse, breathing hard. Sarah ran up to him, her face pale but smiling. You did it, she said. Jack shook his head. No. We did it. All of us. He looked around at the soldiers, the civilians, the smoke rising from the mall. This wasn't just a victory. It was a warning and an invitation. The hook for the future. The next morning, as the sun rose over a battered Washington, D.C., Jack stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Reporters swarmed, cameras rolling. He addressed the world. "They thought we were weak," he said. "They thought we would run. But we fought back. And we will keep fighting. Because Earth is not prey." He paused, staring straight into the nearest camera. "Training day is over. Now we start training for real." Above them, the alien fleet shimmered faintly in orbit, hundreds of ships watching silently. And then, one by one, their hangars began to open. Jack smiled. "Good," he said. "Send them all."